I have two hand shape exercises. They are a little torturous. They won't hurt you, I promise, but they will challenge you. And the challenge is such that if you can do it, you have a great hand shape. If you can't do it, then you're going to experiment, explore, and figure out, well, what do you need to do in your hand to make that happen? To start this, everybody start playing two strings at once. We're going to play A and E. And you should be able to develop that so that you can do it and play it very quietly and not teeter back and forth and lose one string and try to fix it. And the important thing is that let's pretend these are my four strings. I'll do it backwards here for E, A, D, G. So I want to balance my bow on those two strings. If I am a little bit off and I miss a string, then this is what usually happens. I push down and I make the two strings happen. Well, what's happening is that this string, in this case, the A string, is getting more pressure than the E string. And so the A string complains. It says, I don't like that, and it squawks. And so that's the sound when you miss a string and you push down, it sounds like this. And you say, well, I got two strings. Yeah, but not a very good sound. So the solution for that is to really concentrate on balancing your bow on two strings and playing very quietly. All right, see if you can play with two P's, pianissimo. And your goal should be to be able to play from the frog to the tip and back to the frog without losing any strings. Two P's, and once you can get that, can you do three P's and four P's, and imagine just how quietly can you do that? And see, the quieter I get, the more chance I have of losing one of the strings. That's a great exercise to itself. And so you say, well, why are we doing something for the right hand? I thought this was a class on the left hand. It is. But I find if we can master that first, what comes next will be much easier. All right, so let's now experiment with this. Some of you may be pianists, and you know the most important thing is that to know that there are certain fingers in our hand that are stronger, down here in our hand, and certain fingers that are weaker. Some fingers are easier to stretch between, like 1 and 2. Some fingers are harder to stretch between 3 and 4. So what I like to do with this exercise, it's always a healthier hand shape if we reach back from a finger rather than reaching up to a finger. So we're going to start this exercise reaching back from fourth finger. And the way it works is we're just going to jump into it here. We're going to play fourth finger on the A string and open E. So now we're going to play two strings together. All right? So I want you to practice that for a little bit. You're playing 4, 3, 2, and it's a high 2, C sharp. 1, open 1, 2, same high 2, 3, 4. Back and forth. And I want you to be able to focus on the intonation, watching your wrist, make sure your wrist doesn't poke out or it's not collapsed, that you have a nice straight wrist or maybe slightly relaxed and softened inward. Okay. All right. So this is called hand shape exercise number 1, 1 of 2. And we've just established it going 4, 3, 2, 1, open 1, 2, 3, 4. Very important that you start from the top on fourth finger and go down. There's 5 different patterns of fingerings that we use for this. That's the first one. I call it a 1-note pattern. The second one is 2-note pattern. So I'm going to go back and forth between 2 notes. And this one is for target practice. I'm practicing landing my first finger and I'm listening, is it in tune with the open E or is it not? And if I miss it, don't adjust it. Just go in your brain, say to yourself, sharp, still sharp, better but still sharp, too sharp still, sorry, flat still, better but too sharp, oh that was good, That was good. A little flat. That's good. That's good. Ready to go on to the next one. So as you saw, there's a lot of mistakes. And you know what? Some of those mistakes weren't intentional. I was making those mistakes as I was then learning. And what's so important is that I listen, I pay attention to it, I respond. Those of you that have taken our practice class on Wednesdays know that Greg Goodhart talks about make a plan, do the hand shape exercise, 2-note patterns, do the practice, that's me doing it. Review it, how did it go? New plan, new do, new review. So it's a process, and that's what's going on inside my brain as I go through this. So what I want you to do now is go through this, each finger, 2 fingers back and forth. So it'll sound like this. And once you've gotten it 3 times in a row in tune, then do the next one. It might take you 14 times or 29 times to get there. Doesn't matter as long as you've got to 3 times in a row in tune. All right. Now, in terms of the speed, how fast you do it, if your ear can do it, it can keep with you and tell you if it's in tune or not, then that's a good speed. If you want to challenge yourself and play it faster, you can do that. But you have to be able to answer that question, was it in tune or not? That'll give you the idea of the speed. Okay, 3-finger pattern. So now the challenge here is I'm asking my brain to remember 3 notes. Now the first one's open A. I don't have to remember that one. Open A, open E. My brain has to remember that that was a little bit sharp. Sharp, flat. So I remember that and I do it again and adjust accordingly. When I have it in tune, I do the next set. 1, 2, 3. When I have that, 2, 3, 4. All right, so again, this exercise will sound like this. Then 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. Okay, try that. Now let me show you 4 and 5-note patterns and then you can practice that. So it's the same as we just did, we just add a note. So the first 4 is the next 4 is and as you do this, watch your wrist. If you see this happening, it means you have a hand shape problem. Very often I can fix that by moving my my shoulder and my elbow to the left. If you see this, you also have a hand shape problem. So you want your hand to be very quiet, not moving around. The only thing you see moving are your fingers. All right? Then the last one is 5, which is all of them. All right, practice 4 and 5-note patterns. There are 2 4-note patterns and 1 5-note pattern. Have fun. Okay, that's hand shape exercise number 1. One of the reasons that's so good for our hand is that to be able to play an open E while I do that is my fingers have to be very vertical. All right, so now I can do it, not only can I do it on A and E, but I can do that whole exercise on D and A and G and D. And what I'd suggest is master it on A and E, and then when you start to feel it's pretty easy, change it to D and A, and likewise when that's easy, go to G and D. And then every day, do some on each string. That's the maintenance of how to keep yourself in shape. That's one of the best exercises I've had for helping students who transfer into my studio rehabilitate their hand or to really fine tune it. Also to develop hand shape when it's I'm working with somebody from the very beginning. Hand shape exercise number 2 gets a little more challenging. And this one I find best if I play a note and you repeat back to me. So it will be on 2 strings, but we're going to practice to find the finger pattern with single notes first. All right, so copy me. First note, open E. That was easy. I'm going to go through this quickly. So be with me. Open E. Next note, low 1. Next note, open E. And I want you to be doing this with me, so please be playing. Open E again. Low 1. Open E. High 1. Open E. Low 2. Open E. High 2. Open E. 3. Open E. High 3. Now we're going to go down. Open E. Lower 3, normal 3. Open E. High 2. Open E. Low 2. Open E. High 1. Open E. Low 1. So what we just did was a chromatic pattern in our hand. We're moving up by half steps with open E in the middle. Let me show you something that famous violinist and friend of mine and colleague named Simon Fisher calls square and extended shapes in our fingers. So the shape of my first finger when I do this is pretty square. You see my finger looks like a square. If that's a low one. If I play a high one, it's called extended. Now my finger is more kind of triangular. I'll show you from another angle. So now it's extended. Here's square, here's extended. So as we do this one more time, I want you to watch your fingers go from square, extended, square 2, extended 2, square 3, extended 2, square, extend, square, extended, square. All right, let's do that again. I'll call it out. This time I'm just going to say square or extended. All right, E, square 1, E, extended 1, E, square 2, E, extend 2, E, square 3, E, extend 3, E, square 3, E, extend 2, E, square 2, E, extend 1, E, square 1, E. And you say, well, what about fourth finger? Here we go with fourth finger. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hold fourth finger on the A string, which is an E. All right, now play that, and here's what I want you to do is while holding that note, you're only going to play on the E, and it's going to be the same pattern. So it'll look like and sound like this. All right, see if you can do that. Here's another challenge for you. See if you can keep contact with this part of your hand. So the side of your second finger, keep it in contact with the neck of the violin. And this is going to help you really work on stretching back. Great. Right. So this we have to be very careful of when we reach back for low 1, of not collapsing our wrist. And we're going to talk about that next as we begin to talk about function of the fingers. That's caused by, if your wrist collapses, it's caused by some confusion in your hand that your first finger needs to learn how to reach back. Maybe it needs to expand its range and stretch a little bit. But when that's not learned or not developed in your hand, your wrist says, it's okay, buddy, I'll help you out. And it does that. And so it's your body accomplishing the same result in a different way. But this is not so healthy. This doesn't help because it's changed the shape of my hand and I'm not going to be in tune. So I have to maintain the shape of my hand to be able to be more consistently in tune. Here we go with the last step of this exercise, which is now playing 2 strings at once. So I tune the E to open E, and my goal is to not let that move. I always am going to come back to that and listening to that. So this will be some of these notes will sound great together with E, some will sound pretty dissonant, and we have to get used to that there is a beauty in that dissonance. It'll sound like this. And at any time you can stop, you can shake and do it again. Practice that. And if you have a mirror near you or you can see in the computer screen, watch your wrist shake. Don't let it collapse. Usually when I give this exercise to students, they have the same looks on their face that anybody does when they do this the first time, which is, what is this? It sounds horrible. I don't want to do it. And I encourage them to do it every day, and they do. And they come back the next week and they can do it. And they can do it, and we adjust it, and we just pay attention to some new things, but it usually takes about 2, maybe 3 lessons for it to be fluid in your head. And what's happening is your ear, listening to what's going on, your ear is guiding your technique, your body. Your brain has to be paying attention that whole time. That's that, make a plan, hand shape exercise number 2, do it, review it. It wasn't so in tune, or my wrist was collapsing, or I couldn't get a good sound. If there's a squawk of the E, often it's because fingers are blocking the E. So again, it's that exercise, this kind of exercise is if you can do it, you have a good hand shape. Have fun with that one. That's hand shape exercise number 2. I do that build up in the beginning, which is always very helpful. So if you got stuck at any stage, you can always go back and build it up. Once it's comfortable on A and E, put it on D and A, G and D at the end. Then to maintain it, you want to do that on every combination of strings.